Abdaljawad, I wanted to kind of follow that thread a little bit, and I'll tee it up for Ali. But the essay that you wrote several months ago for Mondoweiss about the role of the so-called Western left, and how it looks at Palestinian resistance in this very condescending and paternalistic and racist lens. Um, is and this notion that Palestinians are only like Westerners really show that their sympathies only go to Palestinians when they're victims, when they're when they're being bombed, and not when they're resisting. And this very it's a very important essay that I want our listeners and viewers to read, obviously. But yeah, Ali, if you had any specific questions about it.
Yeah, it's a great essay, and we have it up on the screen now, and it's in Mondoweiss, published at the end of May. And this is a question that I've written about, Joseph Mashad has written about, others have written about, but you did such a brilliant job uh, bringing so many strands of this question together in this essay, and it's particularly crucial at this moment. And you say at the end of it, um, this isn't a spoiler, but I think it's almost the thesis of the piece. You say the left must confront this basic fact: one cannot ground solidarity with Palestine on a politics that dismisses, overlooks, or excludes Hamas. This stance fails to grasp the complexities and contradictions inherent in the Palestinian struggle. In doing so, the left overlooks the dividing line between collaboration and resistance at its peril. We've already touched on some of these themes in the discussion, but can you just elaborate on this point? And what was sort of the main point you wanted to get across? And what's been the reaction to this since you published this essay at the end of May? And I know that you've also spoken about it at greater length in other interviews and discussions, which people can find the videos of.
Well, I was trying to fend off a lot of the attacks that are being launched at Hamas, specifically for being a socially regressive force. Trying to also give people a picture of the main dividing line in Palestinian politics. It's not a dividing line between secularism and Islamism. It's not a dividing line between, socially progressive, agenda or, Islamist agenda. The dividing line is between the politics of defiance and resistance, since we live in this kind of horizon of what we just described earlier of annihilation and ethnic cleansing, and one that has taken a position for a lot of reasons historically to bet on survival through collaboration and cooperation and accommodation with Israel. And that if we want to be serious about solidarity with the Palestinians and solidarity with their cause, we cannot exclude the forces that are the more energetic, the ones that are actually placing their neck on the line, the ones that are actually designing tunnel networks and ensuring that Palestine lives in the 21st century, ensuring that the Palestinian cause has resonance across the world, ensuring that the solidarity and international solidarity movement is now reacting to what the Palestinian resistance was able to accomplish through the shock it induced in Israeli society on October 7th. So you have to at least take into account that these are the forces that are, leading the struggle. And what I mentioned historically is that Palestinians, while they were disunited in many instances, they generally defined the enemy as being the settler colonial regime. The Second Intifada is an example, and they engage in disunity on organizational terms, but they directed the struggle against Israel. So you had Fatah, you had Hamas, you had the PFLP, DFLP, all engaged in conducting operations and resistance actions against Israel. Now the dividing line is not there. You can stand in solidarity with Mahmoud Abbas, but that doesn't mean much. you can stand in solidarity with somebody that is ensuring that his own people are heading towards ruins, and another Nakba, and without even a battle to be proud of, even if we lose, the war overall. So this is the problem that I think people should grapple with. At the end, politics is about choices you make based on the forces on the ground. It's not about necessarily idealistic forces. And I think the second point of the piece was, in resistance itself, there's something progressive. Empowers people. It empowers. It expands the imagination of people. It provides exhilarating moment. To, it has an effective and it has an affective structure to it that also goes beyond those who practice it or their ideologies. So if Hamas is doing much of the resistance at this current moment in Palestinian history, first of all, that doesn't mean that secular leftist forces have not been engaged and still are engaged, as we have seen unfold in Gaza. But more importantly, that in resistance itself, there is a progressive element that we should not overlook or exclude. And having a Islamist political party, or an Islamic revivalist party leading now the struggle, does not mean that we should shy or shun away from engaging with this political formation and ensuring that it gets all the support it needs to sustain itself on the ground and to sustain the struggle moving forward in the future.
That's very well put. And I'll just say, as I'm listening to you, I'm reflecting that, the Islamic or Islamist nature of or identity, let's say, of the resistance rather than nature, is not a problem for Palestinians. I mean, that it's not controversial for Palestinians in general. I mean, yes, there are, as you said, there's a few, and there's always people who dissent, but the vast majority of Palestinians see strength in that. They see faith as giving people really an anchor to survive so much utter horror, and their faith becomes even more important at a time like this. It's a problem for the Western left, but in that context, I want to say that the Islamic identity of a movement was never a problem for the Western Empire, for the American Empire, when it served them. So, for example, they didn't mind, going back to the 1950s, the United States actually fostered and promoted reactionary Islamist movements as tools of its empire. And one of the most grotesque expressions of that was the US support for the Afghan so-called mujahideen in the 1980s against the Soviet Union, forces which later gave birth to Al-Qaeda and some of the more extreme expressions of that. And we saw that in Syria, the United States and Israel were happy to finance and arm and support and whitewash very extreme groups, up to and including ISIS, when it served their agenda. So I'm making that point to say that this is often really a distraction, and it's really up to Palestinians to define the identity and the nature of their resistance, and for Palestinians internally to do their politics, and it's really not a question for others to define. But in the context of Western solidarity, it's you did such an important and good job of sort of sweeping away some of those red herrings in the way of solidarity.
Thanks, Ali. No, I mean, I think I agree with you. And I think that there is a level to this discussion. I mean, nobody's at the end, telling the left in the global north, come and fight here in Palestine. At the end, the coalition, that is operating the Palestine Solidarity Movement, the Palestinians have asked, to ensure that they pressure their own governments to end the impunity of Israel, to ensure that there's sanctions, divestment. That's, that's what, people across the world can do for the Palestinians to ensure that Israel and its leaders are held accountable for all the crimes that are being committed in Palestine more broadly. And, but you shouldn't be distracted with this kind of assault on Hamas or the Islamic nature or its ideology as a reason to back off or back away from support of the Palestinian cause. Again, Hamas is not practicing anything new that the leftists didn't practice in Palestine as well. And much of the left is also aligned with Hamas in Palestine. And much of it is also aligned, at least on the level of resistance, and working together now in Gaza against the Israeli army. So in many instances and in many cases, I mean, this discussion is just becomes a distraction for the wider, I think, solidarity movement and what it should be focusing on.
Well, I think that's a good place to leave it for now. So much to chew on, and we're always so grateful for your wisdom and analysis. Again, I want people to find your essay on Mondoweiss. Maybe we can put it up one more time if we still have it. Abdaljawad, you are a lecturer at Birzeit University in the occupied West Bank. You've written many essays. You're a frequent guest on many podcasts, including Millennials Are Killing Capitalism. There's the essay, The Question of Hamas and the Left, published May 31st of this year on Mondoweiss. Please come back again sooner than
Happy to come back anytime, guys. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit like, leave a comment. These engagements help us with the YouTube algorithm, and it helps us to get around Silicon Valley censorship as much as possible. It does make a difference. You can also support our journalism by going to electronicintifada.net and clicking on Donate Now. Thank you.